Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Adobe, and in this video I'm going to be doing a demonstration of how you can change the state of an object such as an image or a character using buttons. And I'm going to be doing this demonstration in Adobe Captivate as well as in Articulate Storyline. So this would give you an opportunity to kind of see some of the differences in the two e-learning authoring tools. So let's start by previewing the kind of interaction that we are trying to create. So I'm in Adobe Captivate right now, so I'm going to go ahead and preview and I'll play it. And you can see here that on this slide, I have a background image with this brown dots. I have a shape object with some text in it. I have another shape object, and I have a text object and two buttons. You'll notice when I move my mouse over the button, it changes color. When I press it down, it changes color as well. And when I select it, it changes the state of the character to this state. Same thing here. If I hover my mouse over the button, it changes color as well. If I press it down, when I select it, it changes the state of the character. So that is what we are going to be trying to create. And let's preview it in Articulate Storyline as well. The exact same interaction was created in Articulate Storyline. So if we preview it in Storyline, this is how it looks. Again, same thing. You've got the same background, the same shape with text in it. And with the buttons, you have when you roll over it, it changes color. When you press it down, changes color as well. When you select it, changes the state of the character. So same thing. All right, so we're going to try to create this in Articulate Storyline as well. And as I'm going along, I'll be pointing out some of the minor differences between the two e-learning authoring tools. So let's start with Adobe Captivate. We're actually going to start with a blank slide. So the first thing I need to do is to bring in the background image. To do that, I can simply go to Media, and I'm going to bring in that image. I have it already saved on my computer, so I just have to locate where the file is saved. So I've got the file saved right here, and I can just bring it in. It's a very big file, so it kind of covers the entire screen. So what I need to do is I need to click on Style in the Properties Inspector right here, and I need to click on Fit to Stage. And now it fits it perfectly into the stage. And you can see that the image doesn't cover the entire stage. It's just a background image, so I would simply just drag from the ends and just fill up the entire stage with that. And so I'm happy with that. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just lock that background image. So I'm going to rename this object. So in the Properties Inspector, I'm going to come here and I'm just going to call this BG_image. All right. So one thing about working in Adobe Captivate is you have to remember to name your objects so that you can easily identify them when you're making use of them throughout the project. So you can see here I have, because I renamed it up here, right in the timeline, the name's also changed. So I'm happy with that first step. Okay. Next step is to add our shape object up here and provide text into it. So I'm going to come up here to Shapes. I'm going to use a rectangle shape, and I will just drag that like so. All right. Good. Now, if you want to be very accurate with how much space you have at the ends here, you can use your ruler. You can see I have the ruler activated right here. How do you activate the ruler? Very simple. You come to View and you just click Show Rulers right there. Or you can use the shortcut Control Alt R on Windows. Okay. All right. Good. So I can simply do this. If I just want to be super accurate, I know some of you like to uh, be super accurate. So you can do that. Okay. All right. Good. Well, I'm happy with that. I'm just gonna drag this to the end like that. And one thing I need to do with the rulers is I need to, if you're gonna use rulers, um, make sure that you have it to say snap to guide. All right. Um, even snap to object as well. So okay, so it looks like it's snapped there. All right, so all right, good. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna just go ahead and clear the guides. I'm good. So to type text into this shape, you double click, and now you have the ability to begin to type text. So I'm gonna start typing. Okay, I need to reduce the size of my text because it's too big. So I'm going to come here and I'll just make this 36. And I also want to change the font as well. So the font I want is called Bungee. All right, so that looks good. I'm actually going to change that to 48. Okay, perfect. So that looks good. I will also change the fill color of this shape. To do that, I need to come to the Properties Inspector. With the shape object selected, I will go to Fill and I will change it to this gray color. I also want to change the stroke color, the stroke around the shape. I want the style of the stroke to be dashes. I want the stroke color to be black. Well, no, not black. I want it to be well, this color right here, brownish. And I want the width to be 5. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to select it again. I want to change the color of my text as well. So to do that, I'll go down here and I'll change the text color to black. Okay, good. So I am happy with what I've got so far. I'm going to go ahead and lock that here in the timeline. One thing you'll notice is that when you click on this lock button one time, it allows you to it prevents you from moving the object accidentally. You can still make changes to it, right? And that's indicated by these 4 arrows at the corners. That just means that you cannot move it, but you can still change the color if you want. If you wanted to do that, you can still make those changes. However, if you clicked on it one more time, it absolutely locks it down such that you cannot make any changes whatsoever to that object. So something to kind of take note of. Okay, good. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the next shape. The next shape is going to be a rectangle shape. I'm going to take that. I'm going to bring it in this way. And perfect. Now I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to change the style of the stroke to dashes, change the color of the stroke to black as well, and I'm going to change the width to 5. So I've got that. So that's how that looks. Now I want to make sure that the second shape aligns very well with the first shape. So you can see as I'm dragging from the ends, you've got this little green guideline that helps you that indicates that this is aligned. So always pay attention to that. And I'm going to do the same thing on this end as well. Okay, so that looks good. All right, good. That's perfect. Now I'm going to lock that as well. So I am happy with what I've got. Okay, good. Next thing I need to do is I need to bring in a text object. So I'm going to bring in a text object. And to do that, I'll go to my toolbar up here. I'm going to click on text and I'm going to click on text caption. It brings in this text caption here where I can begin to type. So I'm going to type in, all right, so of course this for you can be maybe a quiz question, or it could be, just any question related to your topic that you're teaching your learners, all right? So, but for this demonstration, I'm going with this, all right? I'm going to also come here and I'm going to change the font. I want a font called Corporate S. I'm going to select that. That looks good. I'm going to increase the size of the font as well, and I'm going to make it that. All right. Actually, let's increase it a little bit more. I'll go with 48. And I need to drag to make sure that is visible. Okay, good. So that looks good. And the next thing I want to do now is I want to bring in two shapes. These would be the buttons. I'm going to go to shapes. I'll go to rounded rectangle. I'll select that. And I'm going to draw out my shape like so. All right. Now, again, I can double click inside of this shape and begin to type. I want one for red. And I can simply, because I want another shape like this, I can simply copy and right click, paste, and it would give me the exact same shape like so. Or I can select the first shape, hold down Control on my keyboard, and just drag to duplicate that item. That's another way you can quickly copy and paste objects. All right. So I only want two, so I'm fine with that. I'm going to double click inside of this and I'm going to type in. So now when I select the first shape, which is the red button, I'm going to go over to the properties inspector right here. I want to change the name of this button. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to say red_btn. Red_btn. Let's enter. This is just a way to rename this object so that I can easily identify it. So that, again, if you're working in Captivate, it's, you're going to need to name your objects. Okay. All right. So right now, if you look at the state of this object, it just has only one state, which is the normal state. And if you remember, we actually want different states for this object. So going back to the finished product, we want the object to have this kind of light blue when someone moves their mouse over the object. So, and when they press it down, it should have this gray, and then when they let go and select it, it should have this green. So we want to create some new states for our objects. So what we're going to do is, to do that, you can click on this plus symbol to add a new object state. So I'm going to do that, and you can rename it if you want, but we're not going to do that right now. Let me actually cancel out of this. Okay. At this point, this shape is just it's just a shape. It's not. It's what you would call a non-interactive object. Okay. But because we're going to be using these shapes as buttons, the first thing you really want to do is to check this box that says use as button. So I'm going to check that box, and that effectively makes this an interactive object. And you'll notice that we have this new tab called Actions. So with interactive objects, you can define what action should take place when a learner interacts with that object. So that's why they're called interactive objects. For this second one, because I have not opted to use it as a button, I don't have the Actions tab down here. But the moment I select this checkbox, you can see I now have the new tab that says Actions. All right. So that's really just the difference between a non-interactive object and an interactive object. All right. So let's go back to the first shape, and we're going to define our states. Now, when I click on the plus symbol now to add a new object, you'll notice that it gives me a few options. So it gives me these built-in states that I can create, or I can do a custom. But we're going to exit out of that, and we're actually going to go into a better way to create states, a new state for your objects. I'm going to click on State View, and it's going to bring me in here. So now you can see that I have these built-in states already created for this interactive object. All right. So the normal state is what they'll see at first. The rollover state is what will happen when they roll over their mouse over the object. And for the rollover state, I want there to be a visible change. And the change I want is the fill color. I want the fill color to change. So I'm going to come here and I'm just going to select that. So that's what I want it to look like when they roll over their mouse over it. Same thing, the down state, I want that to be like this grayish color. And lastly, I'm going to add a new state, which would be the visited state. So what does it look like when someone has interacted with that object? That would be your visited state. And the visited state, I want the visited state to be like this green color, right? All right, perfect. So these are the states that I want. And I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. Okay, so we have defined the states for the first button. Now we need to do the same thing for the second button. So in other words, if I go into the state view, you can see that it has these states that I need to now, basically change. So very quickly, I can just come here. I can change the states and add the states that I want. And I'm going to go here as well. And I'm going to, let's just go with, let's go with, okay, perfect. So those are the different states. Now, but one thing you can do also is, if you want to work faster, instead of having to like go in and like, define those states again, you can simply just come here and click and duplicate this item. And when you duplicate an object, it basically copies all of the properties of that object, including the states, right? And so if I want to just work fast, I can just come here and I could just label that as blue. And what this would do is it would change, effectively everything, right? So that's a way to like work fast if you don't feel like going in and, just doing everything all over again. Okay. All right. So I now have a text object. I have 2 buttons here. Let's just make sure that these are properly aligned with the text. So as you move it, you can see that little green guideline that helps you to make sure that things are properly aligned. Perfect. Next thing I need to do is I need to bring in my character. So the character image, I should say. And I have that image already on my computer, saved on my computer. So I just need to locate it and bring it in. So I'm going to go to image and I'm going to locate where I saved it. And I'm going to bring it in. So that's my image. I'm going to click fit to stage and I will drag the corners and I will hold down shift on my keyboard. Oops. And I will just resize the image like so. I'm going to grab to move it as well. Okay, perfect. So that's now starting to look like the way that I want it. Okay, good. So I'm happy with what I have so far. Now, again, this image, I need to now create some new states for this image. To do that, I'm going to go to state view, and that's going to bring me in here. So I'm going to click on new state. So this time I'm creating a custom state because this is a non-interactive object. This is just an image. The learner is not necessarily going to be interacting with this particular image. So I'm going to name this as, I'm going to say lady underscore correct. All right. And I'm going to click OK because this is the state that I want the object to change to when they select the correct answer. So I'm going to right click, right? And I'm going to say replace image. So I can do this a couple of ways. I can say replace image here, or I can click on this button in the properties inspector, and that will open up the library. All right. And so from here, I can select the correct image. All right. It's showing up in my library because I've already used it. But, in your case, you may need to import it if you don't already have it in your library. So I'm going to click on correct lady image and I'll say OK. So that's the image. That's the new state that should show up when someone selects the correct answer. So I'm going to drag this and just kind of reposition it this way. All right, that looks good. And same thing, I want a new state. This state will be called lady underscore incorrect. Okay, and this would be the state of the character when someone selects the incorrect response. I will click on here and I will select incorrect and say OK. All right, and I'm gonna hold down shift and just drag it like that. Okay, perfect. Now, if you want to be super accurate with the positioning of the correct and incorrect poses, you can always come here to your properties inspector and click on options, and you can use the size and position parameters here to make sure that they are in the exact same spot. So of course these numbers for this state will have to be the same as these numbers that you have here. I'm not gonna mess around with that too much. I'll just leave it the way it is, and I'll exit. All right. So now I have this character, which is a non-interactive object. It's a picture, it's an image, right? And I have states created for this object, these states, and I have an interactive object, which are these two buttons, and I have states created for these as well. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is for the interactive objects, these buttons, we need to now define the actions that should take place when the learner clicks on this button. So when someone interacts with this button, what should happen? So let's select the first one, the red button, and I'm going to go to actions. And here I'm going to click on this drop down, and I'm going to scroll all the way down. So these are different things, that different types of actions that can take place when someone interacts with an object. For this one, I'm going to just go straight to change state of. I'm going to select that. Now I want to change the state of, what? I want to change the state of image 7. Okay. Now, this is one of the reasons why I said it's very, very important to name your, in Captivate, you're really going to need to do a good job of naming things, right? Because what if I had other images on here, to try to figure out which one is image 7 might be a hassle. So let's go back here a little bit. So if I come out here and I select the image and I go to, maybe I say this is image underscore, let's just say image, let's just say lady, okay, underscore image, enter. Okay, so I've effectively renamed this object so that it's easily identifiable. So when I go back to my button and I select it, I do want to change the state of, you see how this changes to lady image? So it's no longer image 7. So it's always good to, to name your objects in Adobe Captivate. All right. So I'm going to say lady image, and I'm going to change I want the state to change to lady underscore correct. And I'm going to uncheck continue playing the project. All right. And so that's good. I'll go to the next button and I will say on success, I want to change the state of, lady image. I want to change it to incorrect. Good. And I want to uncheck continue playing the project. Okay. So at this point, we've effectively created the interaction. So now it's time to preview it and test it out to see if it actually works. So let's hide this slide, okay, because this is the one that we are going to use. So I'll go ahead and just preview. Actually, let's preview the entire project. say preview project. Okay, opens it up like this. All right, so this is what we have. You can see we've got the background, we've got the shape with text in it, and if I over my mouse, that actually works. If I press it down and I select it, changes the state. Good. I select this, changes the state. So that's the interaction that I want. So that works out perfectly. Good. So if we try to, if we try to create the same thing in Articulate Storyline, what does that process look like? And let's quickly do that. I'll go ahead and just add a new slide. Let's go with basic layout. We'll go with a blank slide. So I've got a blank slide here, and I'm going to try to work very quickly here. So let's see. First thing we need to do is insert the image. So I'm going to go to image, go to picture, and I will select my image. All right, so I've got my image selected, and you can see that as I drag, I've got this purple guidelines that the object just snaps nicely into it. So that's my very first object on screen. So that's done. I can rename this by calling it image background BG, something like that, right? Press enter, and I'm going to lock it. Okay, so that's step one. Next thing I need to do is I need to quickly come up here and I need to insert a shape. I'm going to take a rectangle shape. I'm going to do that. Okay, that looks good. Same thing in Storyline. If you want to use rulers, just simply right click and you have rulers, and the rulers can really help to guide you. So if I simply grab and drag the rulers that you want onto the slide, and then you can use it as a means of properly positioning and aligning your objects. So that's how you can do that in Storyline. I'm going to clear the ruler, so I'm going to right click again. I'm going to take the ruler away, and the guide, I'm going to click on grid and guides. I'm going to uncheck display drawing guides on screen, and I'm going to click OK, and those guides go away. Okay, so that's how you can do that. I don't think there's a keyboard shortcut for that in Storyline. So anyways, so that's that. I want to type in here, so select the shape, and I'm just going to type okay. So in Storyline, they're called triggers. In Adobe Captivate, they are called actions. So that's another difference between the two. Okay, so I'm going to select this shape. I'm going to go to Format, and I'm going to change the shape fill color. I'm going to give it this, go with this grayish color. I'm also going to change the shape outline to that. I'm going to also change the weight of the shape to 5, and I would also change the style of the outline to dashes. Okay, I would also change the font color to black, and I would change the font to Bungie. I'll also change the size of the font. I'll go with 24. Okay, so I'm happy with that, and that looks good. Okay, I'm gonna lock this as well in the timeline, and next thing I want to do is I want to add another shape. So I'm going to insert another shape, and I'll bring this in. I really like how, you see how the purple guidelines just show up. I feel like in Storyline, they're much more available, and it makes it a lot easier for you. See that? Much more available and much easier to work with. Okay, so I've got that, and for this one, I'm going to go back to Format as well. I'm going to go to Shape Fill should be white. I want the shape outline to be black. I want the weight of the outline to be 5, and I want the style to be dashes like that. Okay, so that looks good. I think I'm happy with that, and I'm going to go ahead and just lock this one as well. Okay, good, perfect. Next thing I want to do is I want to bring in a text object. So I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to bring in Text Box, and here I'm going to have to draw the text onto the screen. Good. Now I can type in what I wanted to say. Select that, and I'm going to go and change the font to this corporate. I'm going to drop down, and I would go with let's go with 36. Okay, that looks good. All right, good. Next thing, I want to bring in my 2 buttons. So again, I'm going to go to Insert, go to Shapes, and I'm going to bring in this rounded rectangle, and I'm going to do this. Like that. Good. I'm going to select it and type into it red. That looks good. All right, I'm going to change the color of the fill. So I'm going to change it to that color. Okay, go with that. And I'm also going to change the font. So I'll go back to Home, and I will click on this drop down. I'll select the font that I want. I'll change the size of the font like so. So that looks good. Now I want 2 of these buttons, right? So again, instead of having to draw a shape and start all over and do it again, I'm just going to hold down Control on my keyboard, and you see how I've got this this little pointer cursor with the plus. It means that I can now click and drag to duplicate that item. And you see how those purple lines show up again to just guide me and make sure that things are properly aligned. I really, really like that in Storyline. Okay, good. So now I can select this, and I can change that to blue. Okay, perfect. So now I have 2 shapes here. Now I want to change, I want to create some new states for this button. So to do that, I'm going to come down here to the timeline area down here, and I'm going to click on States. And here you can see that the only state that exists at this point is just this normal state. But when I click Edit State, it brings me in here. where I can now create a new state. So I can click on new state, and Storyline has built-in states. These are the built-in states in Storyline, right? And the one that I actually want is the hover state. Now, if I wanted to create a custom state, all I simply have to do is just, give it a, new, I just have to give it a new name, custom, whatever it is. But right now I'm not creating a custom state, so I'm just gonna drop down. I want a hover state, right? That's the hover state. And I'm going to click add. You can see that I now have this blue border around the over state. So here I can now define how I want this button to look when the learner hovers over the this object. I want the color to change slightly to this kind of blue color, like so. Right. So that's the first state that I want. I want to add another state, so I'm going to click new state, and this would be the down state. So when they press down on it, what visible changes do I want to take place? So here I want the color to look something like grayish, kind of like that. So I'll select that. And then finally, I want one more state, which is the visited state. This is what I want it to look like when someone clicks on and visits, that object. Okay, so, all right. I want that to look like, I just want the color to change slightly. Well, I want it to change to this color. Okay, when someone visits that state. And I'm going to click on done. All right, perfect. So now you can see that this object has all of these states. Now I have to do the exact same thing for this next button, but there's a trick in, a tip, I should say, in Storyline that can allow you to effectively copy all of the properties of this object into this one. So to do that, make sure you select the first object and go to Format Painter. Click on that, and you get this new this new cursor that shows up, and simply take that and click on the next object, and you see how it basically just copied the states and transferred it into this new object. So that's pretty cool. That, of course, just saves me about another 5 minutes there. In Captivate, to do the same thing, you'd simply just have to copy and paste the object after you've created the states. Okay, but so I'm happy with what I've got, and I'm ready to move to the next step. So next step is I need to bring in the object. I'm sorry, the image, right? So we need to bring in the lady image. So to do that, I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to Picture, and I'm going to locate the picture where I saved it on my computer, and I'm going to bring her in. All right, just like that. Okay. Now, in case you're wondering how I got this character, now both Storyline and Captivate have library of assets that you can get characters from. You can simply, so if you go to Insert and you go to Characters for Storyline, you can get characters from there. But for this one, I got this from Adobe Stock. Okay, so I'm gonna hold down Shift, and I will resize it like so, and drop it onto, let's move it a bit. Okay, so that looks good. So I'm happy with that. Now I need to also come here. Now I need to make sure that I add new states for this object as well. So currently I only have one state, so I need to click on Edit States, and I now need to add a new state. So this would now be custom states that I'll be adding. So I add new state, and I'm going to call this lady underscore correct. I'll say add. Good. So you see now I have a new state. I now need to add the image for that state. So I'm going to select it, right click. I'm going to say replace picture from file, or I can say replace from media library. I want from media library since I've already used the image before. So I want to go with the correct image here. So I'm going to click replace image. So now I've got a new image. I'm going to drag that like so. Good. Do that one more time. I'm going to select this. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to click on, I'm going to call this lady underscore incorrect. And I'm going to click add. Okay. Now I've got a new state. I need to change the image. So I'm going to right click, replace image, media library. I'm going to click on media library, and I'm going to click on the the pose that I want. Replace image. I'll move this like so. Perfect. All right. So now I have my states, and I'm going to click done. Okay. So the last thing I now need to do is I need to set the triggers so that when someone interacts with this button, it changes the state of this character image to a different state. So that's what we need to do next. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to come to triggers. So you see right here, Storyline has triggers while Captivate has actions. So I'm going to click on create a new trigger, and here I'm going to say define what the action should be when someone interacts with this. Now if I click on that first option there, you can see the action. There are lots of different actions here that you can select. For our case, for our purpose here, we only want this one, so we want to change the state of. So I'm going to select change state of, and change state of what? It's asking you which object do you want to change its state. So I'm going to click on this, and notice as I move my mouse and over each of these different options, it has this red outline or border around it, which is very, very helpful in situations where you did not properly name your objects. This red border is very, very helpful. So like in this case, I did not name the object like I did in Captivate, but the fact that I've got this red border here is telling me, oh, this is the object. Okay, so all right, so picture one is the object that I want to change its state, so I'm going to select that, and I want to set the state. Remember, this is a normal state, so I want to set the state to what state? These are custom states that we created, so I want to set the state to the correct state. All right, when should that happen? When the user clicks on rectangle 3. Okay, all right, now I've forgotten which one is rectangle 3, so let's just click on this again, and oh, okay, rectangle 3 is the one with the red border around it, which is this one. That's the one that I want. So I like the fact that they give you that visual guide, but again, it's always a good idea to make sure that you name and label your objects properly, both in Storyline and in Captivate. Whichever one you're working in, it's always a good practice to label your objects. Okay. All right. So I'm going to click OK. All right. But let's see if, for this second button, let's say I name that blue button. All right. See. And for the lady, say I named her in the timeline, I called her lady. Okay. Good. And now when we try to set the triggers, right? If I go to new triggers, my action is I want to change the state of, so this is what I want. I want to change the state of what? I want to change the state of the blue button, right? So because I named it, you see how it's very easy for me to quickly identify it, but still the red border helps me as well in case I did not label that. So I want the state, actually, we're not changing the state of the blue button. We are changing the state of the lady, right? So because I named her, I renamed the object, now I can see it says lady. So change the state of the lady and set the state to what? We want to set the state to the incorrect state when the user clicks on the blue button, right? Someone clicks on blue button, that's the incorrect, and I'm going to say OK. All right. So now we have set the states of the character as well as the buttons, and I think we are ready to preview and test this out. So let us do that. Actually, I'm going to delete this one that I created before. So I'll just go to this slide and I'm just going to click on delete so that we can keep the new slide. All right, let's try this out and see if this works. I'm going to preview this. All right, so you can see background's the same, shape's the same. If I over my mouse, yes, that works. If I press down, that works as well. If I let go and select it, yes. And that works as well. So that's how we can create the exact same type of interaction in Storyline. And, this is really just a great way to see how with these two authoring tools, you can almost create the exact same thing, but they have some slight differences in how you work in them, but they're both very powerful e-learning authoring tools. So I hope this has been helpful to kind of see the differences between working in Adobe Captivate versus working in Articulate Storyline, and hopefully you learned one or two things from this video, and if you did, then great. I hope you can give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and share it with someone. Thanks and bye for now.